What's up, guys? I'm Coach Ryan Family. I'm here in the VIPAR pit. Today I want to talk a little bit about muscle building nutrition. There's a lot of people out there that don't quite have a good grasp on how to eat in order to gain muscle mass. So there's a couple things we want to talk about. First of all is choosing the right foods. Second of all, choosing the correct foods to add when you hit a plateau. Human metabolism is adaptable, which means whatever you do, the body will have a response to it. In the case of increasing calories, let's say you decide you want to gain muscle, so you push your calories up, you may gain muscle for a couple weeks, and then your metabolism actually speeds up and you could stall out. So then you have to continually add more food over time. Where a lot of people go wrong is they always want to look to protein. They add more protein shakes and more chicken and more steak. And while yes, the majority of the population does not get enough protein, it gets to a point in quote unquote hard gainers or people trying to gain mass where they're actually eating too much protein. And the reason why there is such a thing as too much protein is because protein has a high thermic effect. So what that means is you burn a ton of calories just to digest and assimilate protein. So having protein too high, you're actually increasing your calorie burn just to digest it. So really super high protein intake is actually going to be more beneficial for a fat loss client because it's going to increase their metabolism, that high thermic effect, and they're going to feel more full. That's the other issue with protein is it ends up filling you up a lot more. It's the most satiating macronutrient. So if you jam a ton of protein down, you're not going to feel like eating as many calories. And if your body weight plateau has stalled, you're kind of up Poops Creek with no paddle. I'm not going to curse on this video. So a lot of hard gainers make the mistake of adding too much protein. In a calorie surplus where the scale is actively going up each week, you don't need really any more than between 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So we're looking at 160 to 200 grams of protein for a 200-pound guy that's trying to gain weight, just to give you a ballpark estimate. So once you have your protein set at around that 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, from that point, it's about increasing carbohydrates and fats. When you are really trying to put on size, okay, let's back up just a second. Yes, you can gain muscle while losing body fat. Yes, you can gain muscle while in caloric maintenance where the scale is level. But it's much, much slower in those two instances than it is in a calorie surplus. The definition of a calorie surplus is where you are eating more than you are burning and the scale is actively moving up over time. Okay, so what I'm talking about today is in the context of a calorie surplus. So once you set your protein intake and you're eating enough carbs to drive your performance in the gym, now you need to get into that calorie surplus. So if you stalled out, your best choices to choose from are going to be between adding carbohydrates and adding more fats to drive that total calorie number up. What's a maximum for carbohydrates? For a non-endurance training athlete, the highest I would set carbs would be 3 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. So that 200-pound individual would be eating 600 grams of carbs per day on a hard training day. That's a lot of carbs, but sometimes it's necessary to drive growth in hard gaining individuals. So now let's look at some of my favorite foods that I like to help push people into a calorie surplus. Side note, these are foods that you may look to not include in your program if your main goal is a calorie deficit or you're trying to lose a lot of body fat. First one is dried fruits, dates, figs, raisins. You can also put apricots in there. This is a really calorie dense source of food. You get a lot of carbohydrates in a very little amount that's not going to fill you up that much. Next one, extra virgin olive oil. It's an awesome source of healthy fats. It's great for your lipid profile. It doesn't jack your insulin levels up through the roof. It's a really, really healthy fat, but it's a concentrated source of calories. No matter how full you are, even if you're stuffed from dinner, you can always jam down another tablespoon or 3 of olive oil. I've got a lot of people that live on olive oil, just slugging it in between meals with their main meals, just as a source of extra calories. Next one. If you are not quite at that 3 grams of carbs per pound of body weight area yet, you can hit the white rice or cream of rice cereal. It's a very easily digesting hypoallergenic carbohydrate that you can get a lot of and not fill you up too much, okay? Very easy to put a lot of white rice in your program. CAMCT oil. This is Basically, caprylic acid is the name of it. It is a 8 carbon modified medium chain triglyceride. That's a mouthful, but the bottom line is this is a fat that you can use for immediate energy for your brain. It's really good. It's good on a muscle gaining plan because what it forces your body to do is use other nutrients for muscle while it uses this for immediate energy. Fair warning on this one, start small and add it slowly and gradually. If you try to take too much of this at once, you will have explosive diarrhea because it can upset your GI tract. So I would start with maybe 1 tablespoon a day for a week or so, and then increase by the teaspoon if you want any more of that, okay? This type of fat cannot be stored as body fat. It must get used for fuel when it's in the bloodstream. It gets preferentially used for fuel. So that's a benefit of this type of fat. It cannot be stored as body fat. Full fat dairy is another one. Again, if you're trying to lose body fat, you're not gonna be drinking whole milk, but as an option for a guy that just merely needs calories, whole milk, whole yogurt, whole cottage cheese is a really good option. Bonus if you get grass-fed because you're going to have a better omega-3 and a better fatty acid profile. So your conjugated linolenic acid, your CLA, your EPA, your DHA are all going to be higher in grass-fed dairy than it's going to be in conventional dairy. Not that conventional is bad. I'm not one of those anti-conventional dairy people. It can still have a place in your plan, but you're just going to get a slightly better fat profile with higher quality dairy, even though it is more expensive. Last one, almond butter. You can also put peanut butter in there, cashew butter, but almond butter tends to be my favorite. Side note, you can go the trifecta here, one of my favorites for Hardgainer mass bowl, cream of rice cereal with almond butter and raisins. And if you're feeling froggy, a little bit of pure maple syrup as well. It's an amazing, amazing bowl for people that need to gain muscle mass and just need the extra calories. So I hope this gives you some ideas, some ways to structure your eating. Again, if you're not gaining weight on the scale, but you're training really, really hard, you're just not getting enough fuel or you're not getting enough recovery. So you need to push calories up somehow. It's gonna come a point where you're feeling full and you can't eat anymore. That's where this stuff comes into play. The cool thing about all this stuff, none of it is very filling. It's very energy dense, it's very calorie dense. So it's a lot of calories for what takes up a little bit of space in your stomach. And it's not gonna fill you up. So these are some of my preferred options. These are still healthy options. I'm not asking you to go eat Cheetos and Oreos and all that when you're trying to gain mass. That's a recipe for disaster. You still want to nourish your body with high quality nutrition, even when you're trying to hit a calorie surplus, all right? I'm Coach Ryan Family from the Viper Pit. It's winter, it's time to get jacked, it's time to get swole, build some more muscle, hit that calorie surplus. Again, Coach Ryan Family from the Viper Pit. If you like this video, please hit subscribe below and I'll catch you next time.